Open borders, a realistic proposition or naive optimism? Romania and Bulgaria have joined the Schengen area recently, but have Europe and history moved on? Has the Schengen area had its time, or is it still worthwhile? So join me, Jan Darasz, for How We Got Here.
Keine Grenzen, the leitmotif of the latter part of the 20th century, found its most carnal expression in the institution of the Schengen Area. Comprising 31 European countries that have abolished internal border controls, allowing for passport-free movement across their territories, the area facilitates frictionless travel, work, and residence for more than 420 million people. The origins of the Schengen area date back to June 14, 1985, when officials from Belgium, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and West Germany met in the village of Schengen in Luxembourg and signed the Schengen Agreement. But it was only on June 19, 1990, that the Schengen Implementation Convention, outlining practical steps to achieve the agreement's goal, was signed. On the same occasion, the Schengen Information System was established as a database for law enforcement and border control. In 1995, the Schengen Agreement came into force, allowing Belgium, France, Germany, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain to abolish internal borders. But not all EU member states immediately joined Schengen upon their accession to the EU. Bulgaria and Romania, both of which became part of the bloc in 2007, had to wait until March 31, 2024 to become the area's latest additions, with land border checks effectively lifted only on January 1, 2025. At the basis of this delay laid issues with the rule of law, corruption, and organized crime within the countries. The Netherlands and Austria were particularly vocal about Bulgaria and Romania's insufficient anti-corruption mechanisms. Moreover, by force of joining the Schengen area, Sofia and Bucharest were tasked with policing the EU's external borders. Both the Netherlands and Austria questioned Bulgaria and Romania's capacity to handle large-scale movement of people. It was only in 2024 that a stronger consensus about Bulgaria and Romania's membership in the Schengen area arose. Today, the virtue of free movement within the EU finds itself challenged again. Since September 2024, Germany has reintroduced temporary border controls at all its land borders, in line with Article 28 of the Schengen Borders Code. The reasons for reintroduction were increased irregular migration, prompting concerns over the capacity of its asylum system and the effectiveness of external border controls. Additionally, the terrorist attack in Solingen cast a shadow on Germany's internal security. Lastly, along with far-right Alternative for Germany's victories in regional elections in the eastern German states of Thuringia and Saxony, anti-immigration messages became much more vocal. It is against that background that the German government found itself under pressure to adopt more stringent immigration policies. Some have argued that the reintroduced border checks are actually cracks showing up in the Schengen area, possibly a manifestation of a more international phenomenon of re-grenzing.
I'm delighted to welcome our guest today, Jolanta Szymańska, the head of the EU programme at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Welcome once more to the programme.
Hello.
The Schengen area. We'll talk about the philosophical underpinnings of the Schengen area later on, but Bulgaria and Romania were admitted into the area. Why did it take them so long?
Well, the Schengen area is in crisis, in a very serious crisis, because the idea of the zone without internal controls was put under question together with huge migration pressure that we faced in 2015, and the risk of a rising number of irregular migrants is still here in Europe. According to numbers, currently we are not having crisis now, because last year we had only 240,000 irregular migrants coming to European borders. I mean, all the external borders. So it's quite the normal level of irregular migration for the
Quarter of a million, is it, for the whole?
The whole area, 240,000. So it's much less than in 2015-16. So according to numbers, the situation is quite stable. But we know that our neighborhood is very unstable. So we predict that the numbers may increase. That's why all the countries inside the Schengen zone have serious discussions about migration and strategy towards migrations. And Romania and Bulgaria became victims of this internal situation and this political disputes over migrations. And there were some countries, especially Austria, blocking this accession for a long time, arguing that Romania and Bulgaria are corrupted and that we cannot trust their system. And this was not really proved by all the inspections that European Commission, Parliament and other institutions and agencies, also European agencies, made in those countries. According to European Commission, they should have joined the Schengen zone. They were ready actually to join in 2011. So very long time ago. So more than a decade, they were just waiting because of political blackmailing from other countries. And this, in my opinion, is one of the symptoms of the crisis in the Schengen zone, the crisis of mutual trust. And this crisis is seen not only in relation to Bulgaria and Romania, because many countries actually inside the zone are reintroducing internal controls. So although we think about Schengen as an area without borders, in fact, we have internal controls. Look at Germany and the Polish-German border. Right. This is one of the examples, but there are many examples like that. What is even more interesting when it comes to Schengen zone, the legal reality of Schengen and the reality that we observe at the borders is completely different, because according to Schengen Borders Code, the main document of the Schengen area that regulates how and when we can introduce, maintain and keep border checks. According to this document, countries should not exceed this period for more than 2 years. And there are some countries in Europe keeping border controls for more than 5-6 years.
So they're just extending
So something what should be temporary became the permanent phenomenon. So, I mean, of course, it's not that they build fences inside the zone. It's not like that. But on selected parts of the borders, border guards are monitoring the situation and they make controls. I mean, not all the cars, not all the passengers are controlled, but from the perspective of business, transport sector, this is a real challenge because it creates traffic jams on the borders, so the situation is very unstable. But from the other hand, after the COVID pandemic, when we all had COVID passports, some passengers get used to that. I mean, that's the Schengen that we knew before the pandemic is not the one that we have now.
Well, this is it. I mean, the actual, to imagine, it's easier for me to imagine a country or two neighbouring countries that do have border controls, because I remember the watchtowers, the barbed wire between East and West Germany, for example, going into Poland. So the idea of free movement of goods and people in the Schengen area must seem a normality to many of the European electorate, and now to somehow reintroduce border controls must feel that it infringes some deeper right to move around to move around the European Union as we want to.
Yeah, I mean, from the perception of Eastern Europeans, I mean the Central Eastern Europeans, people who had this limited access to traveling and especially to the Western Europe, this Schengen crisis, the reintroducing border controls are also kind of crisis of European project as such. That's why in Romania and Bulgaria, the countries that had to wait so long, the feeling that they are second category members was very strong, and it was also undermining the idea of whole project, fluing Eurosceptic parties. So it's a very difficult problem. The hope is in this European Migration Pact that was adopted last year during the springtime, because the idea is that we will finally try to manage migration together, because now all the countries take this responsibility in their own hands, especially when they feel that we are facing the real problems.
Yes.
So
there's a mental tendency to
close
the borders,
yeah,
to close this door. Yes.
But everywhere, actually, when we discuss migration, the security dimension is very, very present. Even in Polish debate about the eastern border, we also, I mean, as a society, the fear of security is a very basic fear. The very basic need is the feeling of security. That's why all the politicians, all the parties and movements, they use this argument, and they also offer simple solutions, very quick solutions, or symbolic solutions like closing borders, although in fact in longer term they usually don't bring any results.
A quick fix. Schengen was introduced, or the idea of the Schengen area was 1980s.
Yeah, actually this year we will celebrate the 14th anniversary of Schengen. So maybe not the best shape of Schengen to celebrate the project, but I mean, good that it still exists. I mean,
was it a project that had a period of its establishment in time and place for Eastern Europe? In the early 1990s, for example, it made sense to we could move around without border controls. But, for example, we accepted controls at airports after the 9/11 bombings, and hasn't history moved on? Now we live in, like you said, we live in very uncertain times. And Schengen belongs to the past, or can it develop, do you think?
Well, I would not say that. I mean, the idea of free traveling was a kind of addition to the economic sense of Schengen. I would say that Schengen was a supporter of the free movement of goods, of people, and so on and so on. And all the free movements, they still exist. And I think that there is, I mean, this is the essence of the European Union, actually, the project. So I think that we have, and I can see in the European institutions, in many member states, kind of determination to prevent Schengen. But it's not easy. I mean, every time we have to face the internal, very toxic debates about migration, and Schengen is confronted. That's why we have this very specific mode of operation of Schengen. It still exists, although far away from the idea, so to say. But I think I can see kind of hope in this migration pact, although there are also some doubts about countries implementing this pact. We have time for this implementation until June 2026. Hopefully we will make a progress and achieve also kind of common understanding of this threat. I would add one more element that may influence Schengen is the visa problem, the visa system problem, because we are not facing only problems with irregular migrants, and I mean, here we managed to find many good solutions, but we also have visa system problems, like in Polish visa scandal in Poland, like Hungary issuing visas for Russians. It also may undermine trust between countries. So we should try to cooperate this visa policy better at the European level.
Europe seems to be, and the rest of the world, for as much as we can see it, seems to be drifting to the right, or to a more conservative political standpoint. The era of liberal, fairly left-wing liberal democracy, consensus, no borders, let's imagine us all living together in peace, that seems to have gone. Could we live without Schengen but still live perfectly normally, perfectly well in the EU? Or is it a necessary thing for the EU to exist, or is it a desirable thing?
Well, I hope we will not have this... I mean, we will not really ask this question, because I hope we will still keep Schengen working. But of course, we can try to find solutions, alternative solutions. Look at pandemic. During pandemic, there was no movement, only restrictions. And European Union managed to find solutions such as green lines for transports to enable to work at this transport sector to operate at the European level. So we can search for this kind of solutions. Although we also need to remember about our passengers, us as citizens, and for us this symbolic dimension is also important. Yes. But I remember during the crisis in 2015, some research asking people, are you in favor of relocation? Would you be open for closing borders? What would you prefer, keeping Schengen or accepting migrants? And actually, majority were saying that no, we don't want to accept migrants. So we are even able to imagine living without Schengen. So this is, of course, a very sad scenario. Hopefully we will manage to avoid this scenario, but this fear about migration is real, and we need to talk to people about migration in a more frank and open way, I think, not to pretend that we can create solutions that are not solutions, in fact.
Yes. Quick solutions for complex problems, I mean, they tend not to work. Jolanta Szymańska, thank you very much for coming into the programme.
Thank you very much.
So that's all we have time for today. Do join us Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 2:15 CET. So see you then.